2009.
Okay.
We're going to be very sensible about this.
Thank you.
Oh, just want to say, since I have a business student background, I personally support this CEC.
Thank you very much.
Students are really good supporters.
Make sure you write that, would you? On that, the province works with us to provide settlement programming, such as language training. We've just announced over $20 million in the Toronto area alone in the last week. Much of that was for language training in particular professions and skills areas. But it's important to recognize that, yes, language skills are the single biggest determinant of a newcomer success in this country, and that's English language in particular, even in Quebec. So what we're trying to do here is recognize that lower skills can come in through the nominee programs. That's the best place for them if they want to succeed. Recognize, too, that there are temporary jobs, seasonal jobs. I know in my area there aren't many agricultural jobs in January when everything's covered with snow. So it's not appropriate to offer this kind of program to those individuals because they can't sustain themselves year-round. So what we're doing is we're taking care of the lower skill. Now we're taking care of the skilled tradespeople, university graduates who have Canadian credentials, which means that they can work in their fields in Canada. And then we also have the foreign skilled worker program to bring people in from overseas. So it's a suite of programs designed to meet all the different needs of the different marketplaces and of the different people with different talents that we're trying to attract.
Go ahead, sir.
Being an immigrant myself, Minister, my major question to you would be that, for the question part, first of all, let me congratulate you on the great job you've been doing.
Oh, thank you.
And I've been in Canada for almost 8 years now, and I've seen drastic changes in the last couple of years, at least announcements being made. And my major question to you would be that when I immigrated to Canada, it took almost 2 years for my application to get processed right from the day of application. When I moved over here, I faced some difficulties, couldn't get a job in my field and things like that. And while my application was filed, a couple of my friends back in India and Hong Kong, they wanted to come over. So during 2000, 2001, they applied as well. But it took almost 5 years for them to get through. So now I've seen that you made some changes to address that factor. But how long do you think it's going to be before that policy changes or those amendments you made are really going to start showing the results? Or are we going to see some changes that category-specific individuals, for example, let's say we need doctors today, but a doctor applies in India or any part of the world. By the time it comes to a process application, that category is already filled, so the lead time might increase. So what's that time frame we're looking at before these policies start getting some results to us?
Well, you know, the backlog of 925,000 people who have made application to this country and are waiting to have those applications processed wasn't created overnight. It was a structural flaw. I mean, basically in 2002, when the new immigration system was brought in, it was built broken. And the situation has been getting worse every year because of structural flaws. That's why we brought in Bill C-50 with the immigration reforms, because the first goal in that is to stop the growth of the backlog. There was a systemic problem built into that system that would not allow us to stop the growth of the backlog. That legislation has passed, received royal assent, so we've already stopped the growth. This is a good thing. The second aspect of Bill C-50 was giving us the flexibility to process applications based on the needs of the country in terms of the federal skilled worker program, recognizing that we have a legal obligation, but also we have a principle as a government of respecting our obligations in terms of refugee assistance and humanitarian and compassionate assistance, as well as family reunification. But within the federal skilled worker program, we want to make sure that the people who are coming here have the best chance of succeeding. That means that where we have critical shortages, we need people to fill them. Those people are going to have the best chance of succeeding once they get here, which is good for them and for their families. We committed during the C-50 that we would consult extensively on what those categories should be that get priority processing. We've engaged in a very ambitious series of consultations over the summer. In that regard, they're finishing up next week. And once we have the results of those consultations, we'll be compiling them and submitting them to Cabinet for approval. because it does take cabinet approval, not just ministerial approval, to get these ministerial instructions approved and issued, so that we can say, all right, is it medical professionals that we need to get in first? It used to be we could only process them in the sequence in which we received them. Now, as they apply, we'll be able to look and say, oh, here comes a medical professional applying. We can move you to the front of the line for processing. It's important to note that with that, I have made it very clear to my provincial and territorial counterparts that any recommendations that they come forward with for priorities, if those are professions that are regulated at the provincial level, then we must have very clear assurances from the provincial regulatory bodies that those individuals are going to be allowed to practice in their fields, because we do not want to bring in more doctors to drive taxi cabs. So it's a multi-pronged approach, comprehensive, to make sure that the people who come are the people who are going to have the chance to succeed.
Sir?
But in terms of family reunification, we've already made that understood. It's important to understand and to recognize that the sheer size of the backlog and the age of it, it makes it take longer and longer to process permanent resident applications, because old files take almost twice as long to process as new ones. So the older the files, the longer it takes. In the meantime, businesses are absolutely screaming for people to come in to work for them, and that's why we've very consciously expanded the temporary foreign worker program. We've opened 5 temporary foreign worker offices right across the country. We've streamlined processes so that we can get them here faster. And now with the Canadian Experience class, all of those individuals may be eligible to apply for permanent residence from within the country. And I think that's a big difference, so that you're going to see temporary residents, the numbers may fluctuate, but they're going to be coming from different streams now, not just from outside the country, but from inside. And that's why last year when we reported the number of newcomers to this country, we included university students, foreign students, temporary foreign workers, and permanent residents, because the temporary foreign workers and the university and college students are now candidates for permanent residence. So we're going through a number, instead of just everything channeling through one stream, we're taking a number of different approaches, different streams, different processes to get these people permanent resident status, but in the meantime, fulfill the needs of industry.
Yeah, you mentioned yesterday that initially the CEC class would take in around 12,000 to 18,000, but the number of temporary workers as well as foreign students here is much more than that number. Do you think that will create a backlog for CEC class?
Well, this is one of the considerations. Quite frankly, at this point in time, until we get some experience with it, we're ballparking the numbers, and we have to make sure that we take some of the resources that have been given to us by the government to manage this process. That's why we're expediting, that's why we're overhauling all of our procedures and systems to make sure that we don't create backlogs, and we do have the discretion under C50 to control the backlog. We do have that discretion now, which we didn't before.
Yeah, but for the CEC class, you start introducing, you mentioned that there's be some kind of whether yes or no type of
yes, it's a pass-fail
rating systems. So would that be, if the number overwhelming at the beginning, how do you think that would go?
Well, frankly, it's going to be a much simpler process, because these people have already gone through some background checks to get here, and so it shouldn't be as time-consuming as an application made overseas. Also, they're going to be handled through our Buffalo office, not in the missions overseas. So there are a number of procedural differences that are going to make this a faster process, if you like. Things that are going to speed it up considerably.
Also, if I may add, Madam, we cannot assume that everybody who's here on a temporary basis would like to remain here. In fact, many people come here for a short period of time to finish their studies or to do a project and then go home because they have other obligations back home. So it's not necessarily that it will increase our workload. It may increase it a little bit, but not necessarily as much as perhaps you may be implying.
So you're saying that you only accept the number of people that the office can handle, or is that a quota for numbers?
No, there is no
workers?
quota. We're encouraging everyone to apply, and we're going to process all the applications that we possibly can. But you have to recognize that not everybody who is here as a foreign student or as a temporary foreign worker would either want to stay or would in fact be eligible to stay, because sometimes foreign students, for example, they're only here on 6 or 8 month programs. They wouldn't be eligible because they need 2 years of study resulting in a diploma or degree to be eligible, and then they have to work for a year. Many of the foreign students come on a 1-year term. They wouldn't be eligible. They might come in the 2nd year of their program. Because it didn't result in a Canadian degree or diploma, they wouldn't be eligible. So not everyone's going to be eligible, and not everyone, frankly, is going to want to stay. But we want to make sure that for those who are eligible, for those who want to stay with Canadian credentials, that we make it as easy as possible.
Might they, what would their status be while they're waiting for this application to go through?
They must have temporary resident status and indicate that that status is current. So they remember a little while ago. Remember that in April we announced that after graduating from a Canadian university or college, they could apply for a 3-year open work permit. And that's a big difference from before. Gives them the opportunity to be working here, gives them the chance to accumulate within that 3-year period the 1 year's work experience that they need to qualify for the Canadian Experience class.
This makes the argument that skilled workers that are here on assignment would stay at the locations where they were brought to fill jobs. How does the department know that they wouldn't? This makes the argument that they wouldn't necessarily go to Toronto, Montreal, or Vancouver. That they would, they were brought in to fill a job in Kenora, they would stay in Kenora.
Well, the temporary foreign worker program operates on the basis that the employers identify the individuals that they need and bring them in on a temporary basis. Those employers are not all based in Montreal, Toronto, and Vancouver. They may well be based in, as you say, Kenora. And so the temporary foreign workers are naturally distributed more across the country than are people who apply from outside the country to come here, because those individuals tend to concentrate in Montreal, Toronto, and Vancouver. But employers who engage temporary foreign workers are spread outside of those 3 big centers, in small towns, in small cities, right across the country. Just as with the foreign students, they attend all of our 220 plus colleges and universities across the country, not just U of T, McGill, Montreal, Concordia, UBC, Simon Fraser. They attend virtually every university and college across the country. And a number of years ago, I was involved in the task force for investing in students here in Ontario. And one of the great things we discovered was that 80% of students stay in the same place where they did their studies once they graduate. So if we have students right across the country, the odds of them staying in those smaller communities are much greater if they're allowed to apply from within the country for their permanent residence. I've talked with a lot of students over the last while, and a lot of them come here as foreign students. They like the school, they get to know the community, they start to volunteer, they meet somebody, they fall in love, they get a job in the area, and then their work permit, their 1-year work permit, the way it used to be, would run out and they had to leave the country. Well, having left the country, they'd have to reapply to come back, but it might take 3 years or more. They don't want to leave. If they have to wait 3 years, they don't bother to apply to come back. This gets around all of those shortcomings and allows them to stay here where they're comfortable, where they've proven that they can work successfully, that they can get along on a social basis and succeed in this country.
Go ahead, ma'am.
Hi, Minister. I'll say it's good news for lots of people. Yesterday, I already interviewed an immigration consultant regarding this. And one thing he mentioned is because this class is this program, the requirement is much lower than the federal skilled worker, and the waiting time is shorter. So maybe some people, when they already applied under the skilled worker class, maybe if they are not confident with their language or they are not confident with the current system, maybe they will withdraw from the federal skilled worker application and reapply under this CEC. So will you expect that number will be high?
Well, we do require under the CEC a certain level of language facility that is required. And the important thing to recognize is that they can't just switch from one program to another, because the temporary foreign worker is a very structured program where the individuals are brought in by companies to fill specific jobs. And so the individual must also have a valid and current temporary resident status. So it's not just a question of switching streams. They must meet the criteria to be able to apply for the Canadian Experience class.
I mean, like at the program, the skilled workers also can be applied inside Canada if they already have before, if they are already graduated from Canada and they have some 1 or 2 years of working experience inside Canada, so they can apply for the skilled workers.
Normally, the applications are made from outside the country.
It's not.
That's one of the big differences. As I was saying, when I was talking about the university students who up until now had a 1-year work permit, then they had to leave to apply for permanent residence from outside the country. That's a big difference here.
For the permanent residence status before, they made the application before the 28th and after February 28th. So what is the difference there?
Oh, that's regarding Bill C-50 and the immigration reforms that we brought in.
Right.
After February 28th, the new rules can apply, now that they've been passed by Parliament. And what the difference is, according to Canadian law, we have to process any applications that came in prior to the budget under the old rules. The new rules can apply to applications received after the budget was tabled. All right, so that's the main difference. Is by law, we must use the old rules for the old applications, which means that they have to be processed in the order in which they were received, as a rule of thumb. Under the new laws, once ministerial instructions have been issued, which hasn't happened yet, we're still in the consultation process, we'll be able to identify certain categories of occupations. I stress categories of occupations, not individuals, but categories of occupations within the Federal Skilled Worker Program that we want to process first, because we have the highest need for them, and those individuals are going to have the best chance for success once they get here. For example, medical professionals. We might want to process them ahead of some other profession, because that's where the greatest need is. And those consultations have been going on very aggressively over the summer. We'll be finishing them up this week, I think it is. I'll be heading up the National Roundtable on them, and so that we can get next week they finish up.
In the interview yesterday with MP Olivia Chow, she mentioned that workers such as workers who are taking labor jobs right now, the same kind of workers, they build the country, say the Chinese immigrants, the Italian immigrants, this kind of workers, their chances of immigration will be reduced after the CEC class is introduced. So we're just wondering, are we now considering more about the priority of our country than the need of the immigrants?
I'm not sure I understand her logic there, or if there is any.
Canadian country. Our country, Canada, yeah. It's not because of the other countries' needs, because we need.
So she's just
Canadian need.
Right. She's just mentioning that these immigrants who donated, like the same kind of immigrants who donated to the country before, who were welcomed in the country before, are not receiving the same priority as before. So
that's nonsense. That's absolute nonsense. What we're trying to do is open the doors to immigration, doors that were closed by a system that was put in place by the Liberals that created a backlog where people had to wait 6 years to get here. We've changed that. We have to compete with other countries for talent. That's a fact of life, because within 3.5 years, all of our net labor force growth is going to have to come from immigration. That's a fact of life. So we're opening the doors to more people who wouldn't otherwise be able to come here, such as the temporary foreign workers who are, let's say, electricians or plumbers. They don't have the education necessary to make it through the screening in the Federal Skilled Worker Program, right? Because they don't have sufficient education. We're creating another way for them to become permanent residents that didn't exist before. We're making it easier for international students who would have had to leave this country to apply again, which they wouldn't bother to do, to stay here and put their skills and talents to use. And if Ms. Chow doesn't want those people to come here, then she should oppose what we're doing. But frankly, what we are doing is much more inclusive. It's opening the doors to a lot more people who otherwise wouldn't want to come here. And I don't understand why she doesn't want those people to come here. Especially as these are the people who have proven that they can succeed and do well here. That's good for them, it's good for their families, and it's good for Canada.
Thank you. I have another question. I interviewed also international students yesterday, and almost all of them welcomed the policy. And one of them mentioned that the policy will also attract more international students to come to Canada. What's your comment on this?
That was our goal. I'm delighted that they recognize that that's exactly what we're trying to do, is we're trying to attract good students who will come here, get Canadian credentials, hopefully stay and contribute to our country and be successful.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we skipped you here, so go ahead.
Sorry, I'm late today. My question is, one of my friends, she got a PhD program in 2001, and in the third or fourth year of the PhD program, she applied the immigrant, like independent technology immigrant, just inside, I guess it's inside Canada. At that time, her status was just international student. So I didn't get a difference because when she got the PhD degree, she already got the visa for permanent resident of Canada. So what's the difference of this CEC rules of that one?
Okay.
I didn't got the difference.
Okay, well,
She
recognize that
succeeded.
this was in 2001. In 2002, the new Immigration and Refugee Protection Act came into place, which changed all the rules. All right, that changed all the rules from what they were the year before. And since then, we're now changing the rules again. Okay, well, we're not changing them, but we're changing the regulations. And as it stands now, normally when somebody up until March of this year, somebody graduated from a Canadian university or college, they had to get a job. If they wanted to stay in Canada, they had to get a job in a field related to their studies. Then they had to apply for a work permit, which was only good for 1 or 2 years. At the end of that, if they wanted to stay, they probably had to leave the country and apply from their home country to come back. And that would take 2 or 3 years to get that processed, or more.
So that didn't happen to my friend.
Because that was under the old rules.
If I could just point out, sorry, just the minister can't comment on specific cases, so if you can frame your questions in more generic terms, say, for example, the minister can't comment on specific cases, so if you can just keep it in more general, generic terms, we really appreciate that, okay?
Yeah.
Thanks.
But I'm just saying that the time in the rules that were existed in 2001 changed in 2002, and we're changing them again.
And in terms of the categories, certain categories that Canada needs most, I'm just wondering, is there any or more than one categories of occupation have been identified so far?
Well, that's part of the consultations under Bill C-50. Those consultations have been going on all summer, at a very aggressive rate. We're finishing them up next week. Then we'll be able to compile the results. And
This summer?
2 weeks from now. By the end of next week, we'll have finished the consultations. Then we have to take all of what we've heard, put it together, and then determine what are the priorities. Those will be submitted to Cabinet for their approval, because I don't have the authority to do it by myself. I do not have those sweeping powers. That's a cabinet decision. That's a cabinet decision, and then we'll be publishing them.
Looking forward to that.
Well, meanwhile, with the Canadians to make it through the regular stream because they just don't have the points because of the education levels. Even though they have tremendous sets of skills that we do need, the point system fails them.
So that, that's for the federal government level. So as to the provincial program, I mean provincial nominee, does any province have the right to identify different categories?
Yes, absolutely. And that's why the provincial nominee program exists. It would be good, for example, for low-skilled workers. If there's a chronic shortage in a given field, in a particular area, then that's the best route for those people to go is through the provincial nominee program, because then they have a better chance of success.
So I have still have a question about the quota. Just now you say you encourage all the eligible applicants, that international student or skilled workers to apply based on the CEC. Well, does that mean there's no quota of the newcomers taken in?
That's right.
Okay, so that's different than the...
There are no quotas in Canada. There are expected levels based on applications, based on success rates, based on our processing capacity. We plan those each year in consultation with the provinces and territories on a year-by-year basis. For example, we don't look out 5 years and say how many. No. What can we expect to do next year? But those are only expectations. They're not quotas.
But each year, CSE has a specific number.
Levels plan. That's what we expect to do.
So that does not mean,
But
for example, 10,000, that's it, we close the door.
No.
But that also depends on the working efficiency of the whole system, right?
That's right.
Because, yeah, a lot of people, they want to apply, but do you worry about a new backlog?
No, that was part of C50, was so that we don't create a big backlog. In fact, our goal, first of all, we have now capped the backlog. It's not going to get any bigger. And we're going to reduce it. That's why we're putting another $109 million of resources into it. Additional people, better systems, we're just processing things smarter, we're reallocating other resources that we've freed up. For example, when we lifted the visa requirements for the 7 new EU member countries, people were processing 20,000 visas per country, now get to work on other applications from other countries. So we're reallocating those resources to make sure that the whole system works better and faster.
For different countries, or is it just basically whoever applies?
No, we take them on the basis that they apply. We do not discriminate by country. That would actually be against the law in this country.
No, I just wanted to make sure that if that's the case. And so 18,000 is the number?
Well, this is merely an expectation of maybe in the first year 12 to 18,000 as the word gets out, as success goes up. And remember, we're starting from zero. It's not like we have anything in the pipeline right now. But over time, we expect to see that number grow significantly. We'll have to wait and see how much it grows. But as we were mentioning before you got here, there are many of the people who are temporary foreign workers or university students won't be eligible under the terms of this new class. Many of foreign students only come to do, say, their second year of study out of a 3-year program. Since they won't be, they need to have 2 years here. The 2 years must result in a Canadian degree or diploma. So if they don't meet those criteria, then they can't apply. Many of our temporary foreign workers are only here on a short-term basis, so they won't be eligible either because they need to have at least 2 years Canadian experience within the preceding 3 years.
Okay. So you are trying to say the students who already are here without this new program, they can still apply?
Absolutely.
Oh.
As long as they
so
meet...
that will be counted as one application, 2 application, whatever?
As long as they meet the criteria, absolutely.
Now, how did the department came with this number, 12 to 18,000? Is it from past experience of student visas?
It's an educated guesstimate.
Okay.
I mean, recognizing that at this point, any forecast is well, like any other forecast. And I used to be a forecaster. By definition, a forecast is going to be wrong, but it's a range that we're expecting. We may be pleasantly surprised.
Yes, I think you will be too.
That'd be great. I like pleasant surprises.
Okay.
Did you have another question?
Yeah, just want to bring to your attention when you announce these policies that it get misused. Like, after we're going to put this news in tomorrow's paper and this news is going to go to India, India's so-called immigration consultant, they're going to twist it big time. They're going to say the Canada is open for the students, now you can go there as a student and then you can become a permanent resident there. And they're going to start taking the application there, and they make millions of dollars just when you announce something like that out of this news.
Mm-hmm.
And I know many people here, they walk into my office, they tell their story that they applied there and they got permanent residency here on the skilled basis. But when they come here, like recently, last week, there was one guy who came here. He applied as a sweet maker to work in a restaurant. When he came here, there was no restaurant where he applied for. And then there was nobody to take care of him. Then he went to another restaurant. He said, you got to change your job from that restaurant to our restaurant, but to change that, you got to pay this much. And you got to work for this much dollars only. He paid big bucks there, and nobody was here to help him out or switch his job from another restaurant to restaurant which never existed here. He spent $2,000 on the taxi just to find where's that restaurant where he applied and on which basis he got immigration to Canada. And like that, there are many examples we hear from the people every day being in the media. So is ministry aware of these kind of situations that there's immigration consultants, they misuse the system, they bring the people in on the false documents. When they come in here, they are nowhere to go.
We're very aware that unfortunately these unscrupulous consultants do exist. And they're not just in the Punjab. Punjab does not have a monopoly on that. Unfortunately, a lot of these activities do take place overseas where we do not have jurisdiction. But this is where individuals like yourselves, all around this table, can take a very active role in your media, exposing these people, advising your readers not to deal with these people, advising your readers to make sure that their family back home does not deal with these people, that if you have affiliations with media back in your home countries, then please send in your articles to them to get them published so that awareness is raised in the home countries. When I was in India in November last year, I raised this with senior ministers as a real issue, a very serious issue, because it's affecting way too many people. I personally know people who have been taken advantage of. We have zero tolerance for it, but what happens by unscrupulous consultants overseas is totally outside of our ability to control it. You people around this table have a much greater opportunity to make a change in that than I do. You have a lot more power there than I do, and I would encourage all of you to exercise that power, that influence, put it in not just an article this week, but every week, every second week, in your own newspapers, in your own broadcasts, and also contact your people back home, the other newspapers, the other media with whom you deal, and make sure that they expose these charlatans for what they are.
Yeah. Especially in the student visa cases. Like I did
all of them.
Shows.
People who come here for jobs that don't exist, like the restaurant that didn't exist, that these individuals should not have to pay these exorbitant sums. That I've even seen applications where people have totally had someone else fill in the application form for them. It was filled with lies. I mean, when I ask an individual, where did you work and what do you do and what's your profession? And they can't tell you where they worked. And if finally they say they're a chef, but it shows them as coming to work in a furniture factory, guess what? And then when we ask them, did you fill out your form? Oh, yes, they say, but they have no idea what's on it. And they're afraid of punishment if the consultant is exposed. These stories need to be getting out in your home countries. We can't do that. You can. Please go do it. Please, please, please. And be relentless about it. Not just for a week or a few weeks or months, but just stay on it.
And regarding the student visas, the main thing is like when they pay $6,000 or $5,000 fee here, every so-called immigration consultant tells them, okay, this $6,000 is safe. Our fee is only $500 or $600, but you deposit the $6,000. If this student will not get visa to Canada, we will return it. But I know thousands of families that their $6,000 got never returned to them.
Exactly. Tell these stories. Please tell these stories so that they get back to the people, so that they're aware of it, so that these kinds of frauds can be prevented.
And also, our website has all our fees, what we charge for processing applications.
And direct them. Include in your stories the references to our website, whether it's the Government of Canada one or our overseas website that's in the local language. Direct people there. If they want to know the truth, go to the Government of Canada site, and here's the address so that we don't get fake sites put up.
Yes. And in fact, our website does warn people about unscrupulous consultants.
Mm-hmm.
Ms. Minister, there are tens of thousands of underground workers actually in Canada now, and they've been here, some of them have been here over 10 years, have even bought a home here. So how do you think the CEC class will help them?
It won't. It's not intended to. We are not in the business of encouraging illegal immigration, which is what these people to whom you're referring are. They're illegal immigrants. We want to encourage people to come here legally. We want law-abiding citizens to come here. That's why we're expanding the opportunities for them to do so, particularly in the skilled trades. There is now a legal means for them to come in, and we expect people to pursue that.
And how to solve the problem of that there's so many underground workers still in Canada?
Well, we don't want to reward illegal behavior. That's not what the Government of Canada should be doing. We want people to come here. We want people who respect our laws. That means all of them. You can't pick and choose. And if you come in through illegal means, and you're working illegally, then we have the right to deport you.
And the other question is about, for your consultation in summer, is that the point system is one of the discussions about changing the point system?
The consultations were related to Bill C-50 and the ministerial instructions that would come out of that. The point system is not within the scope of those discussions, although, as I've said many times, as a new government, we are looking at all aspects of every operation of the Government of Canada to look for improvements. And obviously the point system is one of the things that the Government of Canada does. But in the meantime, we need to take immediate action, which is why we've launched this Canadian Experience class.
You mentioned earlier, I'm sorry, last question, that the problem, the backlog of processing still exists. Do you estimate for the next couple of years the number of permanent residents arriving candidates will continuously decreasing?
Well, no, remember, we're looking at not just permanent residents who come from offshore, but permanent residents now who will come from within the country through the Canadian Experience class. So we're totally changing how we formulate the number of people who receive permanent residence in a given year.
So what's your prediction for the next couple of years? Do you think the total number, including the CEC class, the total number of permanent residents?
I don't see it declining because as we move forward, we're processing faster, we're processing more faster, and we're also taking them from different streams, like the temporary foreign workers.
You will mention about the on-contract working experience, which each student gets 24 hours a week, and also some students also get a co-op before they graduate. I'm just wondering why this kind of working experience doesn't count in CEC.
The The experience for the CEC is experience that is after graduation, okay? Because that's when they have the chance to really to integrate, to demonstrate their ability to integrate into the Canadian workplace.
But for example, the co-op working experience is also related to their professional class, right? So it's kind of also kind of the social experience.
But it does not have the same exposure to the realities of a workplace. For example, if you're on a co-op thing, you're not going to get fired. You don't have that. It's a short-term thing. We want to demonstration that these people can succeed, and it must be within the what they call the NOC codes of O, A, or B, which means a certain level of skill. Some of the work placement internship programs, they have them running around doing photocopies. That's not a demonstration of the individual's abilities to succeed in the workplace. So that's why we insist that it be at a certain level of performance after graduation and for a given length of time. They have a 3-year work permit. We're asking them to have a year's worth of experience within that.
I
Go ahead.
also may add, this co-op program or whatever other experience, this is part of the education. So this is to actually get the degree. So this is the work experience that we're referring to are in addition to the education. Okay.
And also, I just want to confirm, can I say that Bill C-50 should focus on decrease the backlog of application, and CEC there's nothing to do with the backlog?
That's right as far as it goes. C-50 is also about ensuring that the people who come here have the best opportunity of succeeding. And that's a very important thing. That's where the setting the ministerial instructions comes in, which is a big part of C-50. So those two pieces are right, but I think you need to add the third to provide the balance.
But CEC is not focused on the backlog.
It's got nothing to do with the backlog. Nothing at all. This is a new stream of immigration. It's one that complements the existing streams and makes a full suite of streams of immigration that will help, that are aimed at helping people, newcomers, succeed.
Now we're running out of time, so we're just going to go a quick round. Did you have any more questions?
Yeah, one about the procedure to deal with CEC. The eligible applicant under the CEC rules, they may have a certain period of visa to live legally in Canada, but maybe when during the process to dealing with application, his or her visa expired, and so how long does the process take to deal with the CEC?
Well, number one, we do insist that they have a valid temporary resident permit. That can be extended, especially if there's demonstration that they have applied and they're just waiting to be processed. It would be foolish of us to deny them that temporary permit while we're considering it for permanent residence. So we want to make sure people will have ample opportunity to renew their temporary permit.
Still hold estimate?
Thank you very
Very
much.
good. But one thing I'd like to, I might suggest is in states, you might want to think about it. So you might give some information to them or something.
Absolutely. We're working with the, it's important to recognize that the provincial colleges of medicine determine whether someone's allowed to practice in that province and determine whether an individual's credentials get recognized and to what degree. Those are under provincial jurisdiction. They operate under provincial license. So as a federal government, we can't tell them what to do. There is, however, the Royal College of Physicians and Surgeons, which is at the federal level. I've met with them on a couple of occasions. One thing I will point out is that as we go forward with the C-50 consultations, I've made it very clear to the provinces and territories that if they come to me with occupations as priorities that are regulated by provincial bodies, they better provide evidence that those individuals are going to get their credentials recognized. There is a process there that the regulatory bodies are working with them to make that happen. Okay? I've made that very clear to them. In terms of the Royal College, we're trying to explore ways with them to open up their eligibility criteria And there are some challenges there, no question. But it's something that I'm really pushing on. We've come a long way already in that the provinces recently signed an agreement on internal movement and recognition within the country of each other's provincial credentials. And they have set the end of 2009, is it? As a deadline whereby these various, shall we call siloed provincial regulatory bodies will have to work cooperatively with each other to recognize each other's credentials. That's a huge step forward. It's just huge. And once we then have that, that makes interprovincial mobility easier. It also provides one standard across the country, which makes it much easier for people coming in from outside the country to meet the standard. So we've been very aggressive about this with the regulatory bodies and with the provinces that license them.
Because right now, I've seen some examples in pretty close vicinity of me. A few of my friends.
There are some countries in the world